So it's a big day today, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's live FOMC minutes and, of course, Nvidia earnings. Is it going to lead to a breakout on Bitcoin? I mean, we've seen a little bit of flavor on the NASDAQ right now, where it's made a nice move in the pre-markets as such. Bitcoin has pretty much had the day off and said, nope, we're not going to do anything until we know where we stand with the FOMC. FOMC expectations, what do we know? Well, we know from investors' bets that they're expecting the interest rates to stay on hold. That's fine. But it's what the Fed's going to reveal today at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, which happens to be the same time that Donald Trump's going to be signing executive orders. So it's going to be one of those tricky days, to be honest with you. Quite frankly, I did some trading this morning and that's me done. I'm not going to entertain any of it because usually whenever you trade before two major news announcements, I mean, when you're trading before a big stock announcement, then okay, you can expect the market to be a little bit range worthy. But you've got FOMC minutes and you've got Nvidia's news announcements coming out. So that's usually going to bring investors at their knees as such to work out whether or not they should be putting money into the stock market, or are they going to wait and see where we are with the minutes and work out whether interest rates are going to be cut in the future or not. Now, the stock market has had a little bit of good news at the start of the week, of course, with this big bond of Japan, where they've stopped issuing bonds. That's got a few investors relaxed. Bitcoin's been making some nice movements, the $2.5 billion treasury fund that Trump's trying to raise. So that's good news for Bitcoin. You think Bitcoin will keep on moving, but it looks like they seem to be consolidating with Bitcoin. And I think it's because they're waiting to work out where we are with the Fed and whether or not Nvidia is going to come through with its earnings. Now, speculation on Nvidia is that, of course, the chip curbing, as Trump put it, has kind of hit Nvidia a little bit. And will we see that in their earnings? That's the issue that we've got. So we know that they're missing out on some revenues. Will that be an impact on their revenue announcements later on today, which will be at the close? So the stock market will close, and then usually between 15 or 30 minutes after the New York market has closed, that's when we will get the news announcements. So we're going to break it all down and understand exactly what everything is going to be likely doing from now until that point, and how we can position ourselves to get ready for a little bit of volatility. So if you are new, mad love and respect. It's not late. We're doing the live at the time that we just turn up to do the live. Anyway, let's get with it. So Nvidia is the focus point today, guys, and investors are like trying to work out whether or not we should actually get involved in this story. So realistically, what we've got to understand is this: is AI, or the optimism behind AI, given that there's been so many announcements about AI, whether it's how can I put it to you? New AIs coming out that can process information, whatever it is, new data centers, whatever they're doing with AI, it's continuously evolving. And what investors can do is they can say, all right, if AI is going to keep on evolving, I may as well just go and buy AI stock. So because we get so much good news about AI, investors tend to be a little bit numb from it, where the expectation is, okay, it's always going to be evolving. Research and development will always go into AI. So you can only anticipate that they're always going to improve something. It's like, excuse me, it's like the iPhone. They're always going to bring out another model. You buy the iPhone 15 and then the 16 comes out. And by the time it's done, they'll probably go on to Roman numerals. And then it's just, which they already have sort of, but it's continuously evolving. So it's just a case of, let me just get in on AI and just take advantage of it. But investors are right now working out whether revenues in the AI markets are going to sustain the idea that the market's going to keep on rallying up. So going into it, you got the NASDAQ made a nice move to the upside today. And I took advantage of this move, took a couple of other trades, and I missed out on a bit. So today, I don't know if you can see it. In our personal account, we only made $3,278. It should have been about $4,000. But it's when you get caught in this shocking movement, then that's when it gets a little bit crazy. I gave you zoom in on your screens. You'll be able to see that $3,278 for the morning. However, this was what the trades were. So here are my trades. So I caught the long from this morning. So if you look closely, you can see at the lows right here, this is where I was loading up my longs, okay, on the NASDAQ. And it was only because they swept the Asian session. So if I just show you what I mean by that, if you look here, you can see they swept the Asian session low. And then I started to see interest coming in. So I was trading the idea that after sweeping the Asian session low, a green vector candle comes into play, which is one right there, which is where I initially took the entry point on the NASDAQ this morning. Then I started to scale in. And when you're trading, you've got to scale in so you can get the most out of the move. But the thing is, you just don't know how long the move's going to last for. So if you don't know how long the move's going to last for, what do you know? You know that you can go in and just take the risk, because that's what trading's all about. And I was building the position. So I started off with about 5 micros, and then I scaled in another 5, another 5, another 5, another 5, another 5. And I kept on going and going until we got to around 45 contracts on the micros. And at the same time, I was also trading the S&P, but I wasn't as aggressive on the S&P. So we loaded up on the S&P right here. We sold off at the top side of the range right there, well, inside of here. So that was happy days on the S&P, but it was mainly the NASDAQ sold off at this point, and NASDAQ has corrected a little bit. And then, of course, we tried to play a couple of ranges here, and it cost us a little bit of change. But nonetheless, that's usually what happens. But we caught a nice move to the upside on the NASDAQ this morning, and it was simply trading the logic of what? Trading back into the vector candle. So here's the vector candle right there. That red vector candle. They took some of it yesterday, and then they just went for the sweep. So I was satisfied with that entry. It's not so much that, yeah, okay, we made a bit of cash, but it was the fact that I caught the low on reading the idea of the Asian session sweep. And this is something that happens all of the time. If you go back and look at price action, you can see that they'll sweep the Asian session high, come down, they'll make the Brinks box low, and then they'll go back and attack the Asian session range. You can see here that they swept this Asian session range, came down, and then they just blew through that range. And look at that. Asian session sweep, reversal to the upside. Asian session sweep, reversal to the upside. So you can't tell me that you can't see that happening, okay? And it's just, look at this one here. Green vector candle occurred, and then it shifted out to the upside. So if you go back in the charts and monitor that, you'll start to understand how you can really put things together and take trades on it. And that is exactly what we did this morning. Now, speaking of the morning, let me explain something to you. So we're getting a little bit of war talk, ladies and gentlemen. All right. And these are the things that could affect sentiment. But of course, when it comes to war, money is to be made. And that's the sad truth about it. Okay. US and Russia clash in public as Ukraine war heats up. So just as of late, the US, the UK, and France have lifted the restrictions on the availability for weapons to be provided to Ukraine, right? But then Trump's warning Putin, you're playing with fire. But what do you want the guy to do? All right, let's just keep giving Ukraine lots and lots of weapons. What are they going to do with those weapons? They ain't going to be used for display purpose only, with the intention to use them. So the war with Ukraine and Russia, in other words, the peace talks, are starting to come to an end. These are things that could actually have an impact on investors' expectations of the future. Now, with that being said, Taiwan. Pictures were taken of this area, of this airbase, Taiwan. Well, you know what the story is there. China wants Taiwan. And if you hold Taiwan, you run the semiconductor game. So these images have been released, whether it's valid or not. It says here, aerial shots of detailed analysis of key Taiwanese military base on mainland China social media have sparked security concerns. Right, we've just managed to get rid of the India and the Pakistan war. Ukraine-Russia war is starting to come back into play. This has been a lot of back and forth between China and Taiwan. And China, of course, is having the problem with these tariffs and their economies to the pants. You know that's going to be the case because oil. Where's oil right now? I looked at oil in ages. Oil, $61 a barrel. That is terrible. And if oil's prices are down, it effectively means that China ain't consuming oil. And if the world's factory is not moving, then that means oil's price is going down and China ain't really doing anything. So you really got to be monitoring oil's price action, because when it shoots up, you know China's consuming it, and you can marry that logic together, okay? But given that you've got this oil price trading low, great thing for inflation, which leads me on to today. FOMC minutes comes out at 7 p.m. UK time, Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Now, it's the same time when Trump decides to do his signing of executive orders. So whatever he's going to be signing, who knows? But he's got a relatively quiet day today. So we could be prone to a few words from Trump regarding any trade deals and what have you. Or probably regurgitate the same information. But the main thing today, ladies and gentlemen, is, of course, the news with Nvidia. Okay. And that's going to be coming out at the close of the market. Speaking of which, just go and have a look at Nvidia's price action right now in the pre-markets to put things into perspective. So Nvidia right now is currently gapping up at the open in principle. We've got price action ranging sideways. I have pulled up Nvidia's actual depth of market to have a gauge of where liquidity is right now. Okay. And as it stands right now, the price point is right here. So it's around the $136 mark. And what I like to look for is where are the orders currently in the market before it actually opens. You got 6,800 positions on contracts at $136.45. Going further up, we got another 5.8 at $136.68. But earlier on today, there was one order around it was nearly around the 37 mark where it had nearly 15,000 contracts. So there is a bit of interest to see the possibility that Nvidia could be making a bit of a significant move later on this evening. But of course, with the FOMC minutes and of course the actual earnings itself, the market might end up stabilizing and waiting until that event actually comes into play. So where are we overall? Let's just go and have a look. Investors' expectations is they're not going to cut the rates. Simple as 97.9%. That's where we are right now. Now, with that being said, if Powell comes out today, or if the minutes, sorry, because it's not going to be a meeting, it's just going to be a document that the market is going to read effectively. All right. So I won't necessarily need to do a live for it. It's going to come out and the market will react within 2-3 minutes. Okay. But looking at where things are across the board, we've got the US bonds right now currently trading still below the 100 mark, but it's still at 98. It's kind of pulling back ever so slightly. Looking at where the yields are starting to move up a little bit, which is a bit of a cause for concern. The 5-year is currently trading at 0.57 and the 10-year is trading at 0.47. That's not good if the 10-year and the 5-year and the 30-year, I mean, if they're trading positive, that also means that there's an expectation that investors are demanding more for rates of return to hold US debt, which also have an impact on the stock market overall. Looking at the volatility index, you can see that's trading positive in the market at 0.96%. So it's still at the 20 zone. Anything above 30, that's a time when you buy, ladies and gentlemen. Simple as. If the volatility index goes above 30, when it's high, you buy. And that's the old age saying in terms of the volatility index, which tells you the relationship between the puts and the calls and where investors' heads are at. Are they favoring higher prices or lower prices? Speaking of which, of investors here, last night's price action, okay, or Tuesday's gains showed 431 stocks were up on volume. 58 were down on volume. That's good news. And breaking out today or that day was 10 stocks. So 10 stocks broke out yesterday. But near a pivot is 47. And that's really important because this is how you gauge the health of a bull market. If you start seeing more stocks up on volume against stocks that are down on volume, and you can see, look at that, it's nearly 8 times the difference. It's wonderful. Okay. So that tells you there's a lot of money going into the market right now. So that's what you call a healthy market in principle. Going into the chart itself, you can see that we've got the NASDAQ on the bottom right. Just look to this, where you're going to see the volume from yesterday. Was it an accumulation day or a distribution day? So we go into the daily time frame and we can see that yesterday's price action wasn't really that great because not price action, but price action in overall movement was all right, but it was volume below average. So then we go back to this story here with 431 stocks up on volume. It tells you that the stocks that were up on volume weren't really the big boys. I mean, yesterday we did see Tesla and, of course, Nvidia doing really well, only because of their gap up. But this could have been looked like a float to the upside in principle. So if you're not really seeing an accumulation day by the principle of that volume chart and it's trading above the 50-day average, then you kind of know that this move to the upside could be challenged. But tonight, when we get the news announcements for Nvidia, that's going to decide whether or not we're going to see the continued movement to the upside from the stock market, because the stock market right now, it seems to be struggling to break out from this point. Speaking of which, Bitcoin, let's have a look. We've had some news about cryptocurrency. Have you heard about Sui? Look at that, ETF application by the NASDAQ, Sui. So that's good news. So let's just go and have a look at the Sui price action for a second. Okay, here we are. So what we got? ETF play coming into action. So that's usually going to end up creating volatility for this stock. Looking at it on the higher time frames to put it into perspective, if anyone is a holder of Sui, you can see that it's doing very, very well to come away from this range right here. If you were to draw patterns as such, you've got a nice little W formation, rise, retrace, continuation to the upside to try and claim that. And if the NASDAQ is successful with this, on the assumption that it is actually true, I mean, we're looking at this 21 shares files Sui ETF, so that's good news, then the logic would say that Sui is going to end up climbing even higher. So we could see a nice big breakout, seeing as it seems to have this habit of rising, retrace, build, and shift out to the upside, higher lows in principle. So we're waiting to see if they're going to try and lock the formation to then effectively make the move to the upside. Okay, so just keep an eye on Sui, ladies and gentlemen. We could be seeing another all-time high, could even go to about $12. But if it does, on the news of the ETF, if it is successful and they do break out and you're lucky to be inside of this, start taking some profits, because for every single ETF that comes out, it spikes up, no different to any IPO, and then it corrects, levels out, and then continues its narrative to the upside. To put that into perspective, look at the Bitcoin ETF. Look what happened there. So the second the ETF come out, spike up, nice price, $29, and then it slumped all the way down to $22 before it then made the move. So give it a few days once the ETF comes into play, okay? Now, speaking of Bitcoin, just having a look at Bitcoin overall. So we're flirting with these all-time highs, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we're still trailing around the 5 and 13 EMA. Now, listen, one thing that could happen today, guys, is this. Nvidia news announcements comes out, and the concerning thing that I've got is if the NASDAQ keeps on moving higher before the news announcements, that could mean that when they do release the news announcements for Nvidia, which we have seen in the past, they usually end up spiking lower, and then they make a reversal to the upside. So to put that logic into Bitcoin, we've got to then say to ourselves, okay, what does it look like Bitcoin's getting ready for right now? So we go to the order flow. In front of you, we have got Bitcoin's order flow to understand that. It's really light. There's not that much activity. And when I say that, you can see that you've got relatively decent amount. Oh, that is new. Looks like we've got an iceberg. So if you remember last week when we were talking about the iceberg story, where an iceberg is a collective of a big order that's broken down into smaller orders and then put into the book, okay? And we don't know who the iceberg is. We don't know if it is an iceberg. But when you start to see the same amount appearing in and around the zone, and then they're offering out at a higher price point, you can gauge the idea that it's an iceberg where they'll buy at a low price and they'll effectively try and sell it at a higher price. 52 million at 107,888. And that's being planted, and it's been there for the last 8 minutes. Now, if there's anything else in here to put that into perspective, then we got 17 million at 107,171. Not too concerned about that. But other than that 52 million, whoa. Is that two orders? 52 million at 107,888. Yeah, same. Okay. No problem. Yep, it's all in there. All right then, cool. So 32 million at 108,300. Okay, so that is kind of close to that big order. So you could make the assumption that that could be part of an iceberg. So you got nearly 80 million or over 80 million in orders to try and buy Bitcoin on what would be the assumption of a move lower. Okay, but when I'm looking for Bitcoin to go up, I want to see the offers. Okay, if the offers are present in the chart, then that's happy days. So then what you do is you look at this chart and say, where does the commitment look like it's present? Even though we look back and we see, okay, there's a lot of offers there and we got a lot of bids, what's the concentration of that? So as we work our way up, can we see another order which matches pretty much those bids to the downside? So I'm not really seeing anything. No. 17 million at 110,432. Here we go. So we got 35 million at 110,500. And then that keeps on going. Was that 23? Yeah, 21 million at 110,750. 21 million, yeah, same again. Still going. Nothing. Okay, so we're not seeing that 50 million. So it's not even 80 million. We're not seeing an individual order as such. So that tells me that there's not that many offers. And then it looks like the bid side could be coming into play. But with regards to price action across the board and the news announcements, because they're planting orders very close towards where price is right now, because 107,000, it's not far away. Okay. And that big $50 million bid order could easily be taken by Bitcoin because Bitcoin has been showing those attributes, especially in the Asian session. They've been very spiky. And you can see that as we're at highs right now, usually what happens when investors want to try and get in on a cheap, you'll be seeing lots of wicks. If you go back and look at Bitcoin when we were in, before we actually broke out to the all-time high again, look at these wicks. Wick down, back up, wick down, back up, wick down, back up, and then they continue with the narrative to the upside. Same story could be happening in here. And quite frankly, we could effectively have Bitcoin trading completely sideways. All right. And that's where the Bitcoin dominance in principle is going to start rolling over. I'm looking for it to go higher. But of course, if institutional investors start to step in with Bitcoin, that is naturally going to send the dominance higher. This ETF balance is going to go up again. I mean, no, it's actually come back down again. Not really seen that many transactions. BlackRock's been relatively quiet. It's only bought 53 Bitcoin. Gemini's been moving to VanEck. And yeah, we're not really seeing any selling. Okay, so Grayscale's moved 244 Bitcoin to Coinbase. Okay, so that's probably sell order, but Grayscale always seems to be moving up and down with its purchases and sales, not even sales of Bitcoin. It's just maneuvering Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm expecting the Bitcoin dominance to try and continue back up. A lot of guys are looking for altcoins to make moves. You've got Ethereum trading 0.49%. And Ethereum is the only one that's been lagging behind it all. And I think the reason why you've been delayed with your altcoin business and your altcoin season is because there's been too much attention on Bitcoin and there's hardly any going into the altcoins. Only the guys in cryptocurrency are entertaining the altcoins, and the people in cryptocurrency are the only ones that are entertaining the idea that you're going to sell your Bitcoin and go into altcoins. Try convincing Wall Street to do that. So imagine you get a team of guys in Wall Street that come to the table and say, all right, then let's talk cryptocurrency. One of them goes, okay, we're going to be buying this coin. It's called Bitcoin. You heard about it? Yeah, I heard about this. Yeah, it's a massive coin. What price is it at? Is that 115,000 or it's 106 or it's 100,000 or it's 85,000? Okay, cool. What's the story with Bitcoin? Well, there's a supply. What is it? 21 million. Really? Wow, this thing's going to keep on going. Yeah, it's getting a lot of endorsement right now. We've even got the BlackRock ETF. What's that? Oh, it's the spot Bitcoin. Oh, okay, cool. So I can get exposure in Bitcoin through that. Yeah, okay, cool. So I'll entertain that. So that's what Wall Street guys are coming into crypto with. They're coming with the idea that it's really just Bitcoin. They ain't coming with the idea of an altcoin season. Not to say they're not aware of it, but just ask yourself this question. The most sought out for asset in the world is Bitcoin. Do you honestly think that they're going to be buying this amount of Bitcoin, getting involved in Bitcoin to go over to an altcoin like XRP? I mean, give that an exception, right? But various altcoins. Now, they do fundamentally have great fundamentals, not so much fundamentals, but they do have a good purpose, as in like, in it for the tech kind of story. That's all you can do. All right. So, I mean, you look at Solana, even that itself is its own ecosystem, BNB. You've got altcoins that are good. Okay. But it's unlikely that the heavyweights in Wall Street are going to be thinking, let me get rid of my exposure in Bitcoin and go over to the altcoins because that's what people in cryptocurrency do. No. We're coming with the money, okay? The money that you guys need to validate your coins to pump. We ain't going to be doing what you're doing. You just look at what we're doing. We'll buy your big Bitcoin, and if it keeps on going up, then hope you're going to anticipate that altcoins are just going to keep on moving up, and you won't have this idea of Bitcoin altcoin season, all right? You really don't want an altcoin season because you want the boys winning with the Bitcoin and you want everyone else winning with the altcoins. And then everything just pumps rather than Bitcoin pulls back and then altcoins start moving. They'll be like, forget that, I'll buy it at discount. So the Bitcoin comes down, everyone buys it, and then it ends up shooting back up again. And altcoin season is like dustbin. Saw a post today on X about altcoin season is done. What are you waiting for? It doesn't make sense. Bitcoin goes up, altcoins go up. But if the guys in cryptocurrency detach from the idea of getting rid of Bitcoin going into altcoins, you just stick to what you're doing, everything will go up. That's my opinion. I believe that to be the case with cryptocurrency, especially with Bitcoin. So looking at Ethereum, it is laggard in its ways, and you can't do anything too much about that. Okay. Now, quickly going into the open of the market, as we can see right now, we have got, where are the boys? Here we go. Nvidia currently trading negative at the open, 50, here we go, 135.39. That obviously means that the NASDAQ is just trading sideways. S&P right now doing the same thing. You've got SPX as well. That's gapping up ever so slightly. Okay, volatility index right now at the open is, yeah, still at the 19. Looking at the 10-year, it's come back down again. 2 years trying to move up. 5-year has moved up again. 30 years moved up more. 10 years moved up. So, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a problem. Going into the yen, it's going down. Carry traders are coming into play. Hold on. Carry traders are stepping in. We might have ourselves a preparation here. Hear me out. If yen's going down, euros should be going down, right? Euro's going down, right? So that means dollar dominance is up. So dollar yen is climbing. USD CAD climbing. Swiss climbing. Fine. Gold down. So then dollar dominance coming back up. The idea suggests, okay, that maybe we could hear something about the Fed that says that this is where we are with interest rates, because investors are taking advantage of the fact that the Japanese right now have stopped issuing bonds. So that means they're not going to be increasing interest rates, okay? So that means the yen's going to be cheaper for longer. That means investors can now start buying yen, converting it into dollars to put it into the stock market. There are macroeconomic transitions that happen in the marketplace, especially when it comes to forex. The market, or the stock market in principle, is a little bit volatile and quite uncertain, okay? But when you're dealing with forex, the surrounding story is, where can I generate yield from? So you know that the euro's been riding up because of this defense story. Now we've got this tariff story, but fundamentally, everyone's been going into European stocks. They're probably going to start clawing that back because it looks like the dollar could start to see a benefit because of the interest rates potentially coming down. We just had some mortgage rates come out, the NBA mortgage announcements, okay? And what they're projected for 6.94 came in at 6.98 on the interest rate. That is wild. So it's going to get to a point where the Fed does need to cut the rates pretty soon because it's going to squeeze the economy. And of course, with today's data coming out about the Richmond Manufacturing Index, if that comes in at a contraction, which they're expecting, but it's higher than what it previously was, then if it does come in positive, the Fed's going to be like, well, things are all right in the economy. We don't need to do anything. And that's the sad truth about it. So going into today, just make sure that you are fully aware that when Jerome Powell, or when the actual minutes come out, you're going to see some volatility. Bitcoin is trading sideways, okay? You're not going to, this is a coin toss, all right? If you're saying to me, Tino, what's it going to do, up or down? It's going to do both. That's the messed up thing about it, okay? But if you're already in positions on Bitcoin, okay, technically you've got yourself this range. You've got this low right here, and you've got this high up here. There's nothing stopping Bitcoin proclaiming the all-time high. The only thing that will compromise Bitcoin's high is if Nvidia doesn't come through. Short term, it will react to it. But then the bigger picture will come back into play because Bitcoin is in accumulation, and they are looking to increase their positioning on cryptocurrency. If we just go over to it right now, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. It says here that Bitcoin spot and Ethereum spot ETFs record 385 million and 38 million respectively. So they are accumulating the cryptocurrency. So let the news come out and then understand if that's going to warrant the guys who've been accumulating the ETF to start exiting their positions or continue to load it up. You know, as it stands, the book is relatively light. It's choppy. And if you're going to try and make sense of this, you're asking for trouble. Wait till you see a move away from something. And then if you do get the move away from something, then get the proof of it. That means if Bitcoin breaks away from this point and breaks higher, then you're going to be looking for the test of that holding of that all-time high. That retrace is going to lead to another move to the upside. How will you identify it? When you see one of these vector candles right here. Describe what a vector candle looks like. You know the film. Say vector again. That was funny, man. I dare you. I double dare you. Does this vector look like a bitch? Sorry. I just had to do that. I've been wanting to do that all bloody morning. Anyways, any questions? Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, before we kill this live? Anyway, listen, if you're going to try and trade Nvidia today, get onto BTCC because you can actually trade that. All right, go down and it says here, Nvidia. You can try to trade that logic, but be careful. Be very careful because it can just go up and down. We don't know what the earnings are. They're relying on the idea that the deals from the Middle East are going to subsidize the down and the reduction in revenues from these these chip restrictions from Donald Trump. All right. So just be very cautious, and you can trade crypto at the same time. So quite frankly, just be very careful if you are going to trade it. That's in the description of this live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. All right. This chat bear market in 3, 2, 1. Nah. It's all good. Okay, then. Anyways, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, people have lost trust in crypto just as they did in POW. You shouldn't have had the trust in the first place in POW. Come on, man. Their business is based on printing. How can you trust that? Don't worry. We're out of money. Print some more. Hey, come on. You can't print more gold unless you find it. It's a different story. Anyways, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, mad love and respect. I'll be tuning into you all later. I will be going live before the Nvidia news announcements, okay? So I think it's going to be around 9 o'clock, depending on when they decide to do it. But I usually go live at that time. I'm going to go live a little bit sooner, all right? With that being said, guys, mad love and respect, and I'll be tuning into you all later on. Please, please trade safely, all right? Peace.